Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to GarageBand Weekly. That was the worst intro ever, Patrick. How are you, Patrick? We're talking about everything GarageBand in this show, and I have a special guest, that guy. How are you today?
I am good, thank you, mate. Thank you for having me. How are you?
I'm exceptionally well. On the show today, we've got so much to talk about. We've got the new M1 Macs that have been launched. We've got Big Sur update on macOS. We've got the new GarageBand on macOS. And I reached out and I thought we've got to get a GarageBand expert on the show this week. None of them would answer the phone. So we
Dean
got
Davis
Patrick.
wasn't available today, no?
No one would get back to me, so I thought, Patrick, come on. Oh, we've got a lot to get through. But why don't you, for the few folks that may not know who you are and what you do, why don't you let folks know who you are and what you do?
I am Patrick from the GarageBandGuide.com. We cover all kinds of things GarageBand on there and on the YouTube channel, the GarageBand Guide. GarageBand for Mac, GarageBand for iOS, everything in between, if there is anything in between. And yeah, that's about it.
There may be in the GarageBand on Windows. No.
On
Not a thing.
Android.
On Android, the questions. And I think it's sporting your GarageBand or your GarageBand user
Yes.
T-shirt today with pride.
I won't stand up because I'm naked from the waist down, but yeah, I'm...
Likewise, exactly. Yeah, there you go. There's a mental image for everyone. 1 minute in, and you've got that mental image in your head of Pete and Patrick without pants. But we should jump in and talk about the news and notes because a lot has been happening in the last week in the world of Apple and Mac and GarageBand. So why don't we kick off with the M1 Macs? Now, you and I have chatted a bit about this, and I know that you've been active online and talking about this. What's your, let's get your 30-second hot take on the new Apple announcement of these brand new Macs with their brand new chips.
I think it's really exciting. Have you seen any of the leaked benchmarks? There was leaked benchmarks for the MacBook Air, like a Geekbench benchmark. Have you seen any of that at all?
I haven't yet, no. So I'm coming blind. So let me know. Is it good news? Is it good?
Yeah. So on paper, of course, it's projected to be faster than the top spec current Intel chip-based 16-inch MacBook Pro, which is bonkers. That's nuts. Some fanless MacBook Air is going to outperform the current kind of top-end 16-inch. I don't know. We'll see what happens. We've only got a few days until they start getting shipped out to people, I think, anyway, haven't we? So, yeah, really exciting. Big new step forward for Apple, I think. Obviously, their marketing has been spot on, so all aboard the hype train. Woo-hoo. But I think, looking forward to it, definitely.
Yes, this mug is full of apple Kool-Aid that I've been sipping on.
Oh, absolutely.
Getting ready for yeah. Well, due to the time difference, Patrick gets to drink fun stuff. I get my coffee, but coffee is very important. So I'm likewise. I flip back and forth. I saw the announcement. I got excited. I got hyped up by the Apple stuff, and as I always do, that's what they're designed to do. Then I had a real world moment of thinking, is it going to be as good as they say it's going to be? And then I've started listening to some of the pundits and the commentators and things. And there's a few challenges. If you are just catching up, by the way, we've got 3 new Macs that have been released: the Mac Mini, the MacBook Air 13-inch, the MacBook Pro 13-inch. They're available for order now, and they'll ship in a few days' time, as Patrick alluded to. So big news here is that they're all using a new system on a chip. So they've abandoned Intel after abandoning themselves to go to Intel. They've abandoned Intel to go back to themselves. And I guess the criticism that folks have on these is it's all integrated. So it's a system on a chip, which means it has integrated graphics, integrated processor, but it's got 8 cores of each. So that's pretty epic. Apparently, again, from what the Apple have been saying, and it sounds like these early benchmarks and leaks are saying as well, is because it's integrated, because it's all proprietary, like most things Apple, it's able to talk to itself quicker, and therefore it's able to get more done more efficiently with less power use. So it does sound exciting. Are you lining up for one? Are you going to get yourself a new M1 Mac?
My wife's watching, so no, absolutely not. I kind of want to wait and see. Obviously, these are like the first gen machines. And if you know the first gen iPad, the first gen iPhone, the first gen Apple Watch, Apple have got a bit of form when it comes to just doing like an MVP when it comes to these kind of things, minimum viable product. So see what it looks like. Obviously, I'm excited. I'm more interested to see what comes a bit later in terms of the higher end, higher spec, if there are going to be higher spec machines, and what that'll look like, I think. So yeah, excited, but hanging on for now. Yeah.
Yeah, likewise, and probably the other thing that we buried the lead here on is, and Apple never mentioned things like clock speeds and even things like
No.
memory options, but there's only up to 16 gigabytes of memory on these machines, which for those of us that have been around a while and have used audio and video apps on computers for a long time, integrated graphics and 16 gigabytes maximum memory are two things that make me a wee bit nervous. So yeah, I also will be checking out the reviews and not jumping in just yet, but yeah, there may be a Mac Mini under the John's Christmas tree. If I can, I'll find an excuse. I'll buy it for my kids. I'll call it an educational expense, and then
Yeah, absolutely.
we'll be right. We'll jump into the next note, but firstly, g'day to the folks we got here live. Hello, Mark. We've got Benedict Stewart. We've got SM Borthwick, Jade Star, Tom Rochelle, Rockshot Music. Hello to you. Cody Walsh, Bubba, all of the usual suspects, Sion in the house. If you do have questions, we'll have a Q&A section. So if you've got those curly, especially those Mac questions, those really curly ones that you usually ask me and I go, oh, I don't know. Then you've got Patrick here to answer
I can
those.
say I don't know instead.
Exactly. You can have, I don't know, in a different, more charming accent. Let's talk about Big Sur, sir. So the Mac OS update. I know you've just updated. I know many other folks are updating, and there's mixed reports coming back. Why don't you take us through what it's all about and your experience thus far?
Yeah, so it's the biggest update to macOS since years, ages. It's the next kind of big step up. It's good. I've only used it for a couple of days. Updating was a bit of a hassle. Apple had a massive outage in terms of servers or something. So I did put a post on the GarageBand guide on Facebook and in the users group saying, wish me luck. And then I got updated to 80%. It crapped out for the whole evening. So had to go to bed and try and sleep and then wake up the next morning and install it then, which it did. It was obviously just a temporary problem. But yeah, it's pretty good. I haven't came across any massive issues. Stuff works. Obviously, I did say at the video I made a few days ago, a lot of companies have been reaching out to people, especially audio production companies, saying, look, our stuff just doesn't work on Big Sur yet. Don't update. It's not like we've had 6 months to prepare anything, but don't update. I have had a pretty good experience. So obviously there was a big new update to GarageBand in there as well. I tested dozens and dozens of plugins. Haven't really had any issues with any of them. There isn't anything that hasn't worked. And I've got quite an old machine. So I've got a late 2015 iMac. So I'm not even at the cutting edge of what machines Apple has. So bear in mind your mileage may vary. I'm not saying you should update. I'm just saying I have and haven't had any massive issues so far. Certainly nowhere near the kind of level that everybody had for the Catalina update anyway.
I was going to say, yeah, you were quite vocal in your views on Catalina and how that went.
Yeah.
It sounds like this time around it is working a lot better for most folks. And is it fair to say that it is the most iOS-looking Mac OS that we've ever seen?
Yeah, I mean, it's a funny one. Obviously, the design cues, so you've got your picture there of the control panel in the top right-hand corner is pretty much cut and paste from an iOS device, except you're clicking on it as opposed to touching it. Apart from that, I mean, all the icons have kind of changed a little bit. They're a little bit flatter, less skeuomorphic, stuff like that. But it's still very much a macOS interface. You're still clicking on stuff, dragging on stuff. They've changed some of the system sounds. Woo! Yeah. It's very much kind of what you know, kind of given a visual overhaul. Yeah.
Just a bit of a polish, spit and polish on what you've already got in there, which is, I mean, it's always a good thing. You want a design update. That's why you have to buy a new iPhone every year, isn't it? Because they go from curvy to flat to curvy to flat, and if they change it every year, then you have to buy a new one. That's how
Apple have very much kind of designed them and kind of marketed themselves into a corner where they have to have something every year now, don't they? They can't not, which I think is both a blessing and a curse. I think, especially for users.
Yes, and I mentioned on last week's show that if you do a product count, it's like a body count for 2020. It's a product count for Apple. That was really inappropriate. I didn't mean it that way. If you look at the products for Apple, we've had 3 new iPads, 4 new iPhones, a new mini speaker. We've had 3 new Macs. We've had a new Mac OS. We've had new iOS. We've had new iPad OS. So they have gone hard. Apple Watch I didn't even touch on. So they've gone super hard in 2020. They are really trying to make sure that those pesky heavy wallets that we've all been carrying around can not burden us anymore. So thank you, Apple. We love you.
Thanks.
All right, we're very delayed here, but let's talk about GarageBand or GarageBand, whichever you prefer to talk about.
Whichever you have installed, yeah.
A new update for GarageBand. Let folks know, how do you get it? What do you need to do? What do you need to know before you update?
Well, yeah, the big thing about the new version of GarageBand is you need to be running Big Sur to get it, which is going to be a bit of a downer for a lot of people, which is absolutely fair enough. It's very much, I said this in the video, it's a complete visual overhaul, but all the features are exactly where you left them. So they haven't added anything. They haven't taken anything away in terms of feature set, but everything's been given a nice new lick of paint, very much like what they've done with Big Sur. The good news is that there's about 35 gig of new sound content added, so new instruments and new loops, and it's essentially the last year's worth of. Oh, finally!
I was sorry for the distraction there, but I was doing that.
What a freeze frame! Wow!
I was showing the video.
For dinner that day?
I was trying to do the promotion for you there, and it ended up badly.
Thanks,
sorry, yeah, you said 35 gigabytes.
Yeah, so it's all the sound packs that have been released on iOS over the last year have finally all made their way into GarageBand on Mac. Don't need to hack them in anymore. You can just download them. So be aware of that. It's about, it's going to be a hefty bit of time. You're going to download Big Sur, which will take forever, and then update GarageBand, which will take forever, and then add all this new 30 gigabytes worth of new sounds, which will take forever as well. So take that into account.
Absolutely, and there it is, your update video, where you've said to watch that, and I do recommend you do that if you're about to update to Big Sur, if you're about to update your GarageBand. Head over to the GarageBand guide on YouTube, check out your latest video, or no, is it your latest? I think it might be.
Yes, it is.
And, make sure, whoops, I've lost you. Make sure that you know what to expect beforehand.
Yes.
So now we talked about Big Sur before. You talked about you have an older Mac. What's the oldest you can run? I know a lot of folks have been concerned that it does theirs make the cut, and some of the older Macs may not be upgradable to Big Sur. Is that the case?
Yeah, so everything apart from iMacs, annoyingly. So if you're 2013 or newer, and pretty much every model apart from iMac, it's 2014 models, you're fine. So again, it's like last year with Caelum, there were certain models that were left in the dust, and this year, unfortunately, it's not like iOS updates where everybody gets to get the same update again or the new update again. There are people who are being left behind with older machines. So yeah, I think it's iMacs are 2014. The early 2014 models. If it's a MacBook Air or a MacBook Pro, you're 2013, I believe. I've got a list here. It's in the video. I'll reel it off in that video. I won't bore you all to tears by reeling off the list just now. So 2013, 2014, and later you're fine.
Excellent. And and look, I'm sure Apple will very quickly tell you if you do try to update and it is not available, or it will just be absent, as is the case with iOS, where they say you're completely up to date. But no, it actually just running old hardware that we're not going to update. So cool. So playing around with the new GarageBand, anything revolutionary or very much evolutionary here with the new sounds and everything? Again, just the lick of paint, or is there anything hidden under the hood that you found surprising?
Not really. You can change the color of your tracks now, which is quite interesting. A la Logic Pro, you can go in and change the actual color of your regions. That's the most transformational feature that's been added. Not really much else in terms of features. The design's a bit less skeuomorphic, so they're kind of finally getting rid of that last kind of vestiges of that whole skeuomorphic movement that Apple had for about 10 years or something. Everything kind of looked like it was supposed to be the thing that it was pretending to be, But yeah, I mean, the sounds, you'll be familiar with them. It is all the new content is all the stuff from the Prismatica, Skyline Heat, Vision and Verse, and just the latest keyboard collection sound packs. It is a good whack of extra stuff that wasn't in GarageBand previously. So that's obviously good. But in terms of massive overhaul, massive changes, not really. Not really at all.
Nah. Interesting, and there you go. Jade has dropped a video link to your latest video there in the chat, so do grab that one and bookmark it for later after you've watched this show. You can go and check out that video. Tom's got an interesting update here. Is a weird thing that the new update of Logic is compatible with Catalina, but GarageBand is only for Big Sur, and that's weird. I mean, my take on that immediately is that, and I think you said this in your video as well, and I say this about every update, is that if you are in the middle of a big project, then just don't update, just don't do it, because the unintended consequences and the compatibility of apps and just random bizarre file things that can happen are not worth it. And this play may be that a lot of actual, again, I hate to use the word pro studios, but a lot of more pro studios are using Logic, so it may be that they compatibility in Catalina because they're not in a position to upgrade their whole studio computers to a brand new, very new sort of bleeding edge operating system. They may want to stay behind. So that may be the case with Logic. I'm not sure. I'm not in the world, but does that sound logical, pun intended?
Logical. It'd be interesting to know actually because there was a small update to GarageBand that came out just before Big Sur, and a small update to Logic as well. So I'd be interested to know if you're on Catalina and you update Logic, does that then change the complete look of Logic? Because Logic has been redesigned as well. Or does that redesign happen only in Big Sur? I need to have a look at that and see what the crack is. Yeah.
Will be interesting indeed. Now, I put in here the feature topic, which we've kind of already talked about, but we'll sort of close with a couple of final statements on this. So if someone comes to you, Patrick, and says, should I update my existing Mac to Big Sur today, what is your response to that?
No, of course not. Are you mad? It depends, really. I mean, obviously I updated because kind of my job to be on top of this kind of thing. I'm obviously really interested in seeing what new stuff is going to be in there. But if you, like you have just mentioned, if you're in the middle of making projects, if you have got clients or something like that, and you're relying on the program in order to provide a service or even just to finish off a song or a track you've been working on, then yeah, just don't be daft. Don't be silly. Or what you can do is, if you do get suckered in by all this and want to update, is make a time machine backup first. Please make a time machine backup first, because if everything goes tits up, apologies, you can always just go back and then reload your computer to exactly the point that it was before you decided to stupidly update.
Excellent advice. We've talked about it before. We talk about it every time. And I know my email inbox and my Facebook Messenger box and my Instagram DM box are full of people with very, very sad stories about very, very bad things that happened to their GarageBand projects that could have been easily avoided with just simple backup here or there. So yes, you don't want your entire computer to be in the trash can because you haven't back up, and because you're on a Mac, you got Time Machine. Like it's made easy for us Windows.
It's really easy.
Much less of a simple operation, but if you're on a Mac, you got Time Machine, your iCloud drive, you got plenty of options for backing up your stuff. No excuses, please. We do not want to see you cry. I've seen too many people cry. Over GarageBand projects over time. All right, let's jump in. We've got an interesting rant of the week here, because you and I have been chatting during the week about this. One of the big things about the new M1 Macs in particular, and Apple mentioned this in their big release and their big announcement, is that they're going to be able to run iOS apps. So one of the selling points for a new M1 Mac is you get the benefit of this new architecture, you get these new operating system with Big Sur, you get a brand new chip, you can run all these new apps, you get Rosetta 2 to run all your old Mac apps. So they really talked about backwards compatibility and not losing any performance. And then they mentioned that you're going to be able to run iOS apps. What was your take on that, and where do you think Apple are going with that side of the new Macs?
That's interesting, isn't it? I completely blame Apple's vague-ass marketing thing for this. So obviously that's a really cool thing to say. You will be able to run iOS apps on your M1 Mac. And what I'm seeing now in kind of Facebook groups, on Reddit, in forums, is the assumption that people are going to get their M1 chip-equipped Macs on day one. They're going to boot it up, and then they're going to immediately be able to run all of the iOS apps on their Mac. And that just isn't the case. Really isn't going to be the case. Some, yes, maybe, but all, especially when it comes to audio production apps, it's not going to be the case. So Apple apps as well are not kind of getting away from that either. I have on pretty good authority, for example, that GarageBand for iOS is staying on iOS. You won't be able to use GarageBand for iOS on your M1 chip equipped Mac, which sucks, to be fair. It's pretty rubbish, but it kind of makes sense. I mean, GarageBand on iOS and GarageBand on Mac, from like a code standpoint, are pretty much the same thing. Obviously, just the iOS version was rebuilt around a touch interface. So then I suppose if you're going to take that GarageBand for iOS and put it on a non-touch interface, you're going to have the two versions of GarageBand on your Mac. Why would you use the, I say inferior, I mean inferior on a non-touch based system? Why would you have both running side by side if you're Apple? Doesn't make a lot of sense, really.
Yeah, it doesn't, and I've been seeing. I got really excited, and then I read between the lines, saw the writing on the wall, listened to some of the Apple folks talking about it through the week, which you sent me some links to as well. And so I know that you've just shattered the hopes and dreams of many
really
hundred GarageBand users, because I think we were all really hoping to be able to just lift and shift our iOS workflows over to our Mac and then just have that consistency. But it does make total sense. So the official word, or never official, is it? The slightly vague word from Apple is that yes, developers will be able to choose whether their apps are available on the Mac platform if they're an iOS or iPad OS app. So they can opt out if, for instance, they are using things like the core audio of iOS or iPad to do routing, which a lot of folks do. Because if you think about it, the way the audio drivers and the way audio works between iOS and between Mac is still quite different. There's a lot of similarities now with the M1 and the A series chips, which is why we can run the iOS apps. But yeah, the ability to actually run your GarageBands, your Audio Pros, your Cubase's 3s, these are the types of manufacturers, developers that are probably going to opt out because they are reliant so heavily on the touch experience to do so much of what they do. And it is disappointing too, because as you know, and as I use my mouse and keyboard on my iPad all the time, and Apple have really come out and said, hey, your next computer is an iPad and you can use a mouse and you can use a keyboard. So they've said that it's got all those same functionality. So there's actually nothing that would limit you that much being able to bring that across from the iOS platform to the Mac OS platform. But yeah, I'm a little disappointed because I had beautiful dreams of getting a Mac Mini and then doing what I do on my PC, but being able to just share, and then running my iOS apps and doing my tutorials, and everything is beautiful and integrated in this happy, cheerful world. And then Patrick emails me during the week and shatters my dreams.
I'm not saying it will never happen, but I mean, I guess even from like a business standpoint, so say, for example, you're Clevgrund, who we both are big fans of, and you make an incredible guitar sim called Stark, and it's released on iOS and it's released on Mac for wildly different price points. Are you then going to allow iOS users to import their cheaper version of what is essentially the same plugin into Mac and use it natively and bypass that higher priced desktop version? I don't think, and I think that's going to be the case for a lot of developers that have multiple versions of their effects on iOS and on Mac. I just think a lot of them will just opt out, and there's not going to be as big a change, certainly at the start, than people maybe think there's going to be. Sorry.
Yeah, no, and again, I know that again we've shattered the dreams of many people, but I think it totally makes sense, because if you think about the $1, $2, $5 apps you buy for your iPhone or iPad, the same things on desktop are $20, $30, $40. So the developers are, like you say, not likely to want you to use those cheaper versions of the apps on your Mac platform. So it will be interesting to see, because again, and look, I know that the announcement was already an hour to just tell us, hey, we got 3 new Macs. So we didn't really want a 3-hour announcement to go into all the other detail. But yeah, the devil is often in the detail with these things. So that is why I sat back, and why our advice remains to be to just wait and see. Let all the others, and then me and Patrick, be the guinea pigs. We will go in there and fail and do all the things, so that you don't have to take that risk. But yeah, if you've got opinions on this, let us know. So if you're watching live here,
opinions.
If you want to have a rant like we did, let us know in the chat, or if you're watching on the replay, let us know in the comments. If you're getting some value out of this one, do hit like and do subscribe to Patrick's channel. I didn't say that. We're 24 minutes in, and I didn't even say you should probably follow Patrick, but you should probably follow Patrick. To the GarageBand guide down below. Let's move on from this and start talking about some real stuff. Like, we needed to get onto that because I know people had a lot of questions, but let's get onto some actual GarageBand related tips. So, tip of the week this week. You did a video in the last week about sharing projects between iOS and Mac, which, as we've just found out, since we can't have iOS on our Macs, is going to continue to be a thing we need to do. Why don't you talk folks through sharing a GarageBand iOS project over to your Mac, what you need to do and what you should consider when doing so?
It's a fairly straightforward process, really. I mean, there's in the share menu from the song select screen on iOS, you can just select share, and then you've got options of whether you want to share a mixed version of your track or the actual project, and it's the project that you want to share. You can share via iCloud, you can stick it in a Facebook message if you really want to, and kind of get it across to your Mac that way. The video takes more of a collaboration standpoint, so obviously the easiest way, if you're in the same room, to get something from your iOS device to your Mac is to airdrop it. I love airdrop. It's great.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you're further afield, then I've found, especially from iOS to Mac, then using iCloud is probably the easiest way. You can also email it, but then you have to go through trying to zip it down from inside iOS, which has got a few more kind of steps than maybe it does on Mac. And then, once you get it across to your Mac and open it up, your project is as is. As it was on your iOS device, apart from any third-party iOS apps that you had loaded on, obviously won't be loaded into your GarageBand for Mac project. So you might want to merge stuff first before you kind of send it across. But it's quite a fairly seamless experience. There haven't been any changes to that because I made that video but just before Big Sur came out, and I was quite interested to see if they had streamlined that experience down any. They haven't, unfortunately. And it's a better experience than you will get when you try and move something from Mac to iOS. And there haven't been any improvements there either, unfortunately. I don't know if you know, if you move something from GarageBand from Mac to iOS using a similar method, it just comes into GarageBand for iOS as a single mix down track. You can't kind of affect the individual tracks. You can only add stuff to it and then bounce it back to your Mac to fix stuff there. So second part of that video is going to be moving from Mac to iOS, and then the second part. There'll be a third part, which is going to be talking a bit more about long distance collaboration in general and some of the things that you can do, especially nowadays, to kind of make the process a bit easier for yourself.
Yeah, and it is a tough one because I know I get the question asked a lot again from folks collaborating because they think, hey, we're both on Apple, we're both on GarageBand, and especially now that you got the same sounds in GarageBand on Mac, you would think it would be a little easier, but I think, as you've mentioned, the plugins are one thing, so having your third-party plugins are going to be different on your Mac versus your iOS device, so that needs to factored in, and then just some of the behind the scenes stuff within the project files themselves is slightly different, meaning once you put that Mac stamp on it, it is not openable again in iOS. And probably the only thing I'd add to that, and I think you mentioned it in your video, is be careful of your versions, especially now because you will have people on Mac that will be using the old version versus the new version on Big Sur. I'm assuming there'll be compatibility issues with them, and there's definitely compatibility issues with iOS when it comes to iOS 13 versus the new iOS 14 version. So if you're on different versions of things and you're trying to collaborate with other folks, you can run into trouble. So keep that in mind as well. Excellent stuff. I've got a couple of questions here from folks, so why don't we jump on over to those? We had one up here. Does anyone know if Waves plugins are going to be ready for transitioning? I'm assuming that to Big Sur. I can't imagine that Waves are one of the ones that have been on the board. You know, have you heard from them or have you seen?
Yeah, they've been one of the most vocal manufacturers telling people that their plugins aren't ready yet. So I've heard from people. Obviously, I said I've had a positive experience. I have heard from people who have checked their Waves plugins, and they currently don't work in Big Sur. No.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed, exactly. And sometimes they'll say it won't just to protect you, and then you do it and it will, but don't spread the word. Like, spread your own opinion, your own experience, but don't say, hey, everything works. Be really careful. Like the answer and the response to everyone should be your mileage may vary, and be very, very careful. And same thing, if you're in the middle of a big project, like don't again, we don't want you to come crying in our inboxes saying, oh, we updated, I had a project I needed to have done by the end of November and now I'm screwed, because that would be a bad thing. What's another more general question here? What's the best way to master your track on GarageBand for iPad? Now, do you do much mastering on the iPad? I know you use the Mac for sort of more of your mixing and mastering. Is there anything you use to master on your iPad?
Not beyond the kind of grand finale type of thing, no. Obviously, a bit more hands-on mastering with GarageBand and Logic on my Mac, but on iPad, if I am going to master something, because I would usually bounce it across the Mac, it'll be in something like Grand Finale, as opposed to actually tinkering with individual plugins, which I know you have done quite a fair bit on GarageBand for iOS, Pete.
Yeah, so yeah, that's a good segue. I didn't plant this question, but yeah, I'm working on a video in the next week about the options for mastering in iOS. Oh yeah, thank you, Benjamin Pinnock. Your check's in the mail, buddy. But yeah, well, because I do get this question a lot, and I've got a bunch of videos, but people just want to know what the options are, and it basically ranges from free, which is literally just putting a limiter and maybe some EQ on a master track. And I know GarageBand iOS doesn't have a master track, but you can bounce your tracks down to a stereo track or export and import them back in, or use merge. There's a bunch of ways to do it. So you can do it for free. And then, like you say, there's Audio Master Pro, which is about a $10 app. There's Grand Finale, which I think is about $15. And then there's Final Touch, which is kind of the granddaddy of mastering apps for iOS, which is about $30, I believe. So yeah, I wanted to give the expand what basically go through from budget from $0 up to if you want to actually spend some cash, and what you can do with all of those. So you really, when it comes to mastering, I don't know what your view is on this, but if you mix it well, if you've recorded well, if you've mixed well, mastering should probably be the simplest part of your whole recording and music creation process, because, and I know I'm going to offend a bunch of mastering engineers, but it's really not rocket science. It's taking a really good sound and then just maybe boosting a little volume, maybe a few EQ tweaks just to make it a little bit louder so that it's going to compete with other songs on platforms. So, do you have any other on that? Or,
I'm sure I agree with that. I'm not sure I agree with that, but yeah.
I like it.
I think there's a bit more to it than that, really. I think that you can do a bit more in the mastering process than just increase I think depending what it is that you're doing, I mean, obviously the ultimate is to get it set off to a proper mastering engineer who will do a proper job on your, as you've said, well-mixed project. I think that's kind of the top end of what you'd want to do, and they're not even massively expensive nowadays, depending on what kind of size of mastering house it is that you're sending it to. But yeah, I think if you plan to do everything homemade, then yeah, you're probably right. Get it up to streaming volume and get it out there is probably the best idea. Yeah,
I like it. We rarely disagree. I like it. I think people were waiting for a fight. I think people secretly think
getting on a plane now.
We hang up from these and then we just start yelling at each other. And we're only civil on camera. I think that may be what people actually think about us, Patrick. So I've got a question here from our friend Tom Richel. So is it not possible to connect iPad to MacBook via So is it not possible to connect iPad to MacBook via a powered USB hub? I know it works directly with the Lightning cable, but it's not through the hub. Am I missing something? Possibly. So connecting your iPad to a MacBook. So I'm assuming for transferring files and the like. Is that what you're interpreting from that, Patrick?
Yeah, I've never tried to do it. Never tried to put anything in between the iPad or the Mac in terms of data transfer. Pass.
Yeah, I can't see why it wouldn't work, because all a powered hub is doing is, say, taking one USB port and turning it into 4 USB ports and making sure that you have enough power on them. So if you're using audio interfaces or microphones or mices or keyboards or whatever, it's a good way to expand. And especially because our new Macs are only getting 2 two Thunderbolt ports, in fact. Hubs are going to be important. So that'll be an interesting one to see, Tom, how that plays out. But it may just be one of those weird Apple quirks. I know that I've got a problem where if I connect my iPhone or iPad to my PC using a non-genuine Apple cable, it just doesn't do a thing. And then if I get the original sync cable that came in the box, that's the only one that will play nicely with iTunes and my PC to connect up. So maybe it's something related to that the hub is creating some sort of proprietary thing in between that Apple is not liking. We know Apple are slightly renowned for that sort of thing.
I have heard, yeah.
No, well, so we don't know, but yeah, if anyone does have any answers, we never said that we were going to know the answers to any of the questions, but we're more than happy to have a chat about them and let you know how much we don't know them. If you do have other questions, though, please drop them here in the chat. And if you're watching on the replay, Patrick and I will be down in the comments after the show and over the next couple of days. So if you do have questions, drop them down there as well. Let's move on. We are already 5 minutes over. We normally make this show 30 minutes. We knew we were going to be into overtime tonight because there's too much to talk about. Let's talk about some plugins and apps of the week. And once again, I'm being super lazy and I'm stealing directly from Patrick because I recently checked out Caelum Audio's Tape Cassette 2. I know I was a bit late on that one. It's been out for several months and it's a great tape cassette emulation plugin. They've gone next level, haven't they? Tell us a little bit about the Tape Pro from Caelum Audio.
Tape Pro, yeah. So, like you say, you covered Tape Cassette 2. I covered it previously in a previous episode of App of the Week as well. It is the Tape Cassette 2 is a fantastic free tape saturation plugin. And essentially what Tape Pro does is just kind of take that, but then to the complete next level. So there's loads of controls here. There's loads of different kind of emulations of different types of tape saturation. You can really tweak and kind of fiddle with things to your heart's content. It's great, really. I think it's the kind of thing where you wouldn't really need another tape saturation plugin once you get this. This will do anything that you want in the kind of tape saturation world. And it's only a $5.
Right.
Madness.
It's a good deal. These iOS apps are cheap for
it is. I should say Caelum Audio were kind enough to supply me with the code for the app on Mac, where it does cost $39.99. So again, talking about that difference in markets, that's quite a good example of it. It is worth it, definitely. You won't get another of tape saturation plugin of that same level on Mac for cheaper. But yeah, that's quite a good example of the difference in markets there. Yeah.
Yeah, and probably a good reason why you should create on iOS. No, no. We support all platforms here. We are platform agnostic and tolerant of all platforms except Android. Here on
Platform agnostic. That's a good name for a band, isn't it?
Oh, there you go. I've been looking for a second. Well, I've got rid of you again. A second artist name to use, and maybe platform agnostic could be a good one. And then I'll get all the I'll get folks
and
coming at me.
Want 5% of your royalties for giving you that name, Pete.
Well, we can do it with thanks to channel sponsor DistroKid. We could use the Teams option, and we can share revenue very easily. No, they're not. We're not promoting DistroKid today. They are good though, and link in the description, 7% discount. Let's move on. So that is plugin of the week. I've got a bonus plugin of the week. Now, this is something that I'm yet to actually check out. Our buddy Jakob Haq over at Hack Attack, who is excellent creator, has released a new plugin that he has been very actively involved in. And instead of showing you the plugin or talking about the plugin, what we're going to do is promote our friend of the show, wonderful creator Jake Starr, in just you can see that 21 minutes time. As soon as you log out from this, grab yourself a coffee, a beverage, and a snack, and settle in because Jade is checking out Jakob's new bass synthesizer. Now that's what I call niching down in a big bad way. You've gone synth, you've gone iOS synth, you've gone iOS bass synth. Say that 3 times fast. I'm just on my microphone here. Have you had a chance to check it out yet? The new app from
I know Jakob a little bit, and he let me help beta test it. So I had it on test flight for a good kind of 3 or 4 weeks, and it is brilliant. Absolutely, because it's the same. It's Kai Harris, so it's the same guy who made Shockwave, which is like a really unique synth. And this is just, like you say, it's really laser focused in exactly what it is. If you like kind of, I was going to say like dubstep because it's all kind of wub wub and all that kind of stuff, but actually you can use it on loads of stuff. They've done an amazing job. I quite often say on my plugin videos, it's the best one of these on the App Store. Genuinely, it's amazing. Watch Jade's video and then go and download it because you will want it. It's great.
Very cool, and you'll be supporting a fellow iOS creator who is literally living his dream. It is a dream. I know you've been involved with Audio Kit and with other folks around some of the sort of patches and plugins and things. No one's ever come to me, Patrick. I think it's because I don't use anything electronic. But one day, a guitar. I know, right? I'll reach out to Dave Grant and say you need to make a guitar loops app that, and then I can be involved with that, because it's something I've thought we should always have. But do go and check out the app, and like we say, check out Jade's review, and I'm sure Patrick and myself will review it. In fact, Jakob's going to be on my channel later this week, so
Cool.
On Wednesday evening, Thursday morning, depending where you are in the world. So we will be hitting him up and finding out about the creation of the app and how it all worked. And there you go. If you've got, you can join in the fun and find out all about it. Righty dokie. We are coming towards the end here. I'll just check and see if we have any final questions before we finish up. You can tell my voice is going. I get passionate. I get excited about these Apple changes, and I'm still not sure. I don't know.
Have some more coffee, Pete.
I'll have some more coffee.
Coffee. We all know it's rum. We all know it's rum.
So back in Scotland, do they call it Scottishing up, or is it still Irishing up?
No, still Irishing up. Yeah, absolutely.
The poor Irish.
Scottishing up would be deep frying your cup of coffee. Yeah.
Stuffing it in a wee sheep stomach, and then sorry, we've gone off track. To make up for that slight. So you see what I did there? That slight against Patrick's heritage. Our resource of the week is, not surprisingly, going to be Patrick's GarageBand guide site. I wanted to particularly draw your attention to a couple of guides. So Patrick's got a couple of free guides on there. Now, we'll cost you your email address, but I'm on Patrick's email. Only spams you 6 to 7 times a day, so you'll be okay. You'll be able to get through that, and he definitely doesn't sell your email address to mobsters. But yeah, if you join, you'll get the free guide there, which is the quick start guide to GarageBand or GarageBand. So I know many of you are more experienced users. Don't discount the fact that sometimes you can go back, and I've done courses that are at the beginner end, and I've found that I'm doing things way wrong. So just workflow things and tips and tricks and things that maybe you didn't think about. It's definitely worth checking out because it's for free. And if you are new to GarageBand, if you're just catching this and going, oh, I'll just see what these two blokes are talking about here about GarageBand, then it would be a very good idea to go over there and check that one out. So yes, Patrick, you do good work. And if folks want to check that one out, there is a link down in the description. Did you have any parting words? We talked about a lot. Did you have any parting words for folks this week here, Patrick?
Not really. Just enjoy. There's loads of exciting stuff that have just happened, like in the last month, whether you're on iOS or whether you're on Mac. Like, there's lots of stuff to get stuck into and be excited about. Not to mention, I don't know what it is about the last 4 weeks, but there's been so many iOS apps released. It's quite hard to keep up. So just enjoy it. This year's been a bit crap. So enjoy it. Enjoy it, definitely.
Absolutely. I concur. If there's one good, well, not one good thing, but many good things that have come out of 2020, it's the number of folks, and Jade Starr calls it the home recording revolution. I really do think we are of the home recording revolution, and GarageBand or GarageBand is really at the forefront, as are all of our iOS app developers and plugin manufacturers. They've all had plenty of time, and they're all listening to you. That's the good thing. They're actually listening to what you're saying and developing things that are going to help you create and record and release music. So I think that's pretty darn good. We are going to start off.
That was smooth.
Oh yeah, right. I'm a professional. To finish off, I've said I'm a professional, then I stumble over my words. Go and check out Jade's show in just 15 minutes time. I'll be over there checking that one out, and the new Agonizer app from Jakob.
Sure.
There's all the links that you need down in the description below to everything we talked about here today, all the plugins and apps and links and resources that you can check out if you are into your GarageBand. Until next week, on behalf of my co-host this week, Patrick, from the GarageBand Guide, please be kind to yourself, be kind to others, keep creating, keep rocking. We'll see you real soon.